What's going on, guys? Welcome to mikeybalzz Fishing. You guys really enjoyed the search for the perfect bass boat, so see right behind me, we're gonna continue that. I'm hunting for a bass boat because I want to get a new boat. I love my little Triton, and actually that's a little tease for this video, but I am looking at different boats and trying to find kind of the perfect setup for my style of fishing and just what I like, you know, like anybody. So the best way to do that is to talk to people, ask them their opinions about their boat, how they run, how they use it, the things that they like about it. So what I got is my buddy Jacob Walt, way over there, right there. He's an MLF Pro Circuit Pro, awesome dude, great fisherman, and he has a Triton bass boat. So we're gonna do a walkthrough. What is it, TR21?
It's a TR20 Patriot.
TR20 Patriot walkthrough. He's gonna tell me a little bit about it, what he likes, what he doesn't. Hit that like and subscribe button. Let's do this. All right, Jacob, let's get into the brass tacks. Tell me a little bit about the specs on this boat.
So this is the 20 TRX Patriot, so 20-foot boat, and basically this has got a wide beam on it, a lot different than the older Tritons. You know, a lot of the 2007, 2008 Tritons had a real narrow front deck. This has a much more, I don't know, much wider deck, similar to what like a Ranger or some of the newer Skeeters would have. I really like that wide platform up front. I mean, this is really my office, is this front space. I mean, obviously I spend a lot of time behind the console as well, but this is where I'm doing the damage. You know, this is where I need to be. I need it to be comfortable up here, and so I like having this nice wide platform. This also has pretty high sides on it. Some of the newer boats have really low, short gunnels. I kind of like having the high sides on it. For me, it's like, I know for a fact I'm not gonna kick one of my rods into the water. So that's just kind of a basic rundown of the layout, you know, length and width of the boat. And we'll go into the more details of what we got on the back and what we got here up front.
I 100% agree with you on the 20-foot boat. That's kind of the range that I'm looking at because it's big enough to handle bigger water, but at the same time, it's small enough where I can sneak in between docks, get to like some of those little sneaky bedfish and things along those lines. I guess one thing that I'm curious about, we're about to talk about your motor and that, but do you know the gas tank size on this guy?
Oh man, I think it's, I want to say it's 45 gallons. 45,
that sounds about right, because
yeah,
usually it kind of varies between 40 and 50 depending on the boat. Yeah. And just a quick note too, for anybody kind of new to bass boats, beam, can you define what beam actually means for somebody who's new to bass boats and how we define the specification?
Yeah, so the beam of the boat is just the width basically.
Exactly.
Just from side to side, you know, from one side of the boat to the other side. So you got your length, and I don't know why they don't just say width.
I don't know either. That's why I thought I got to throw it. Because I was wondering what the hell that was. I'm like, beam, dude? Like, really?
Yeah.
So let's talk about the
how
back
long
of the
is
boat.
your measuring beam?
Exactly.
Like, it's 17 inches. What are you talking about?
So let's talk about the back of the boat here. I can see you already have two power pole blades on here, the white ones, which match your wrap really well.
Yep.
Is there a reason you went with the blades over the Sportsman 2s or something along those lines?
I went with the blades just for weight and just for, I think they're a little quieter. They're a little bit smaller. They're just, I just think they're overall a little bit more, you know, redefined, or not, what am I trying to say? I went with the blades just because I feel like they're a little bit quieter, they're a little bit more stealthy. I don't have any kind of added noise. I've used these before on other people's boats, and I just really like the performance of these.
Well, in the game you play, it's all about inches. So little things make a difference, dude. Ounces, you know, pounds. Like it's. I mean,
if you're in a shallow little pocket, you know, you're over on, let's just say Lake Eufaula, and you see a dock, and you want to pitch in there nice and quietly, and you're a little closer than you need to be, and you hit the button for the power poles, and it's a little bit louder than it should be.
You might get one less bite.
You might get that. You may not get that bite, you know.
So on the back here you have Mercury Pro Xs 250. This is the new 4-stroke?
Yeah, this is the new 4-stroke.
How do you feel about it?
Man, I love this thing.
Right.
I love it. I mean,
quiet, it's powerful.
Between the roar when you start it up, I mean, it just gets you going every time. And then the torque difference on this engine versus the 2-stroke is just phenomenal.
Does that mean you're popping up a lot quicker too and all that?
You'll get up on pad a little quicker, but the biggest difference is like when you're running, with a 2-stroke, you know, you step on the gas and it's like you can feel it like gradually getting up to speed. This, it's like boom, it'll like throw you back in your seat when you step on it. Even if you're going 50 and you step on it to go to 60, it's like you can feel that. So it's just really responsive. Just got a really good, you know, it's really, I don't know, it's just really quiet. It's got a lot of torque. I'm super happy with this motor. As far as, I mean, I'm gonna be straight up honest with you, as far as fuel economy goes, I don't think it's any different than the old motor.
That's what I was actually wondering about.
But it does have a lot more torque.
No more oil?
No more oil.
How often do you change out the oil?
Every 100 hours is what
Okay.
you want to do. Yeah, I mean, you really don't want to run it for any longer than that. I brought it into the shop last time, and I think I had 110 hours on it, and the guy's like, "Oh my gosh, your oil was disgusting."
It'll make it.
You know, he's like, "What the heck were you doing? You needed to change that." So every 100 hours is what you want to do.
Okay.
But it's super simple. I mean, I've got a gauge on there that checks that, and you basically just keep an eye on it. You hit 100 hours, you roll to the shop, and you get it done. You don't have to pour in oil after every trip, or two trips, or whatever it is.
So Jacob, I've noticed on a lot of these guys' boats, I actually did, you know Tyler Wolcott?
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Super cool dude. Also fishes the Pro Circuit with you guys. One thing that I've noticed, and I actually have one too, is a jack plate, like a power jack plate. You have a Bob's Machine jack plate. I don't know which model it is. This is gonna sound terribly stupid, but like, really, what's the function? Like, what does that do for you in a performance boat like this?
So the hydraulic jack plate, what it's going to allow you to do, it's going to allow you to adjust the levels. So you're going to be able to raise it or lower it, and the benefits of that are going to be in rough water. If you're running it, you want to have it nice and low. It's going to give you better traction, so you're not going to be coming out of the water as much. It's just going to give you, it's going to keep your boat on the water. It's going to keep it sucked down to the water. And then if you're super duper shallow, like if you're on Lake Okeechobee or you're on Toho or any of those really shallow lakes like we go to down in Florida, you're trying to get up on pad and it's like 1.5 feet, 2 feet deep. And a lot of the times you'll go to get up on pad and that lower unit's gonna bog down in the bottom. And a lot of the times you just can't get up. With this, you can raise it up and then you can step on it, and a lot of times it'll get you up on pad in a lot shallower water. I actually just installed this guy the other day, and I'm super stoked about it. I'm excited to run it for this next season. And yeah, I went with the Bobs. They just seems like the best one out there. Really, really high quality. This is actually the Action jack plate. It's the 10-inch. That's what they recommended to put on this hull. Those are kind of a couple benefits of it. I honestly don't know much else about it. I'm going to kind of learn it as I go, but that's what I know that the benefits of it are as of right now.
So I'm not gonna let you be
Here,
that
I'll
much
stand down here.
I like this. For once, Jacob is actually shorter than me because I'm standing on the deck. But we jumped in the boat and look straight down below us right here. Right here at this floor. So anybody who knows anything about saltwater fishing recognizes this, and this stuff is showing up a lot more in freshwater fishing, and that's called sea deck, or it's a type of sea deck, maybe a variation. Tell me a little bit about what you got going on here, and did this come standard with the boat?
No, so actually you can tell it's not standard because you can see my mess ups on there. But no, I actually did that myself like about 2 months ago. I was so sick and tired of getting out there on the water, and I like to fish barefoot a lot in the summertime or in the springtime or anytime it's warm. I mean, shoot, I got shoes on today that I'll probably end up sliding off and we'll fish barefoot, and that never dries.
Yeah.
Ever.
And it stinks.
And it stinks,
Yeah.
and it's just nasty, and that carpet just doesn't dry out, and it's like stepping on like a wet sponge all day. That sea deck, I just figured it would be easy to install. It's not easy to install. That glue on there is a pain in the butt to get off, but I figured out some chemical like mixtures to put on there.
Oh my
and pull it
God,
off.
Jacob.
I
Yeah.
probably got really messed up from that, but no, I put that on there myself. I think it makes a big difference. Really, I don't see the benefit of having carpet down there at all.
I agree with you.
At all. I mean,
Yeah, I
this
agree
is
with you.
so much better. Drains way better. Another thing is it's not going to add weight. You know, when you have water that's stuck
That's
stuck
true.
in that
I didn't
carpet,
think about that. Yeah.
weighs. I mean, that
Yeah.
water's weight. I don't know how much it weighs. I mean, you've got 5-6 feet of material
Yeah.
down there. If it were up to me, I'd have the whole boat sea decked.
I think you might regret that. I know some guys that have that. It's
Really?
really cool, but for as many benefits as there are for sea deck, there's a lot of benefits for carpet when you're on it all the
Really?
time like that. So
Yeah,
it's
I
kind
mean,
of a
I
trade-off.
don't necessarily know, but I mean, for down there, that's the way to go.
Down there,
I
it's the
think.
deal. And actually, if you're really careful, I'll tell you one thing. You can take a slight like bleach solution. You know how you always get all that green and mold in your carpet? You can actually spray bleach on this and rinse it out, dude. It cleans out and looks 100% new. It's bad to the bone. I wish more boat companies did that. So let's move on then. We're on the front deck. You talked about how it's a little bit bigger than the older Tritons. I actually had an 06 Triton, and I love the hull, but one of the shortcomings and one of the best parts about it is it's a performance hull, skinnier kind of front deck, but you could run real fast. I kind of like the wider decks, give you a lot more operational room. One thing too is the storage on this thing is awesome. Why don't you crack that thing open and show us?
This is like my favorite part of the boat. I mean, I love to have a lot of tackle. I don't keep all my tackle in the boat by any means. We got some other clothes and hats in here right now and a net, but it's jam-packed with tackle. You know, I've got I don't even know how many, maybe 15 different planos, anything from, you know, narrow to deep planos in here.
And it's set up for this, right? It's set up for 3700s or whatever.
Yeah, and there's actually a, it's like a, I'm not sure, it's like a plastic, maybe like a poly material. And
it's a tackle organization.
Yeah, and you got slots in there, and it actually comes with little dividers. So like if you're, you know, if you don't have as much tackle as this, you can, or if you just want to go out and you know you're going to be doing certain things, you can put a divider in there, and you can put your hooks in there, you can put your weights in there, and then you could divide it behind it so they're not just going to fall over when you're running. And then you can put all your plastics up in front of it, or however you want to organize it. There's dividers in there that kind of make it nice and easy to you know, spread things out. And then the other part that's really cool is it's got these little side kind of, you know, rails or
little
openings.
Channels, yeah.
Yeah, and you can put whatever you want in there. I always keep my weights over here. It's just super easy to access.
Yeah.
And then I've got my, you know, I'll keep a few bags of plastics that I know I'm going to use during the day. As you can see, I got a few pairs of clothes over here. We're going to be changing some stuff out today, but we got, you know, cup holders in here. I usually just use them for loose tackle storage, throw some frogs in there.
Hiding your beers when you're in a dry county.
Yeah, exactly. There's actually in here too, I believe, on this back panel, yeah, just down in here, there's actually a
USB plug.
Yeah, there's a plug in there, so if raining or it's misting or something and you're trying to keep it dry when you're charging it, you can plug in there and you can set your phone or your camera or your batteries or whatever down in there so it's not going to get wet. But yeah, this storage compartment is awesome. I love this thing. This keeps all my gear nice and organized. And I installed these little little deals up here. They're just a little silicone. They're actually made by a company called Groove. Got them on Tackle Warehouse. But basically, you just shove your hooks in there. Yeah. A bunch of it's kind of rusty. It's been sitting up there for a while. But anything rusts in Alabama. I mean, anything and everything.
Yeah, that is true. Because there's a lot of dampness. I love this though, Jacob. I know you're a lot more big time than me, but the fact that you can be organized, especially if you fish more than like 2 or 3 lakes,
absolutely,
it's such a big deal. Like whether you're taking stuff out and putting it in, being fast about that, or just being able to find stuff. Because the difference between saying we're right next to Gunnersville, we're gonna go fishing today. The difference between fishing out here and say going to Smith Lake, total polar opposite. So the amount of tackle you have to carry in order to be viable in those multiple situations, and we all fish different lakes like that, this kind of organization helps a ton.
Absolutely. And then right here below it, we got our cooler. Good placement, I think, for the cooler. It's nice and easy to access when you're sitting in the seats. I've got a bunch of waters in there and a few empty packs in there, but
just like mine. And then you got a nice little tool rack too, with a little
it's got your
golden rule, dude.
Oh, sorry, I said it in 17 inches. It's actually 18 inches.
I
my
like
beam
tool racks though, dude.
Yeah, no, this one, honestly, if I were to criticize this boat, I would say this is in a really bad spot.
You step on it?
Well, I don't. I did when I first got the boat, but you definitely cannot put those there, because that is a major tripping hazard.
Yeah, that
like
is kind
my
of bad.
co-angler, or if I have a buddy on the boat,
yeah.
If they're coming up front here to net a fish, or if they're coming up front here just to fish in general,
yeah,
every time they kick this thing and they
yeah,
and they don't fall in the water, but they just kick this thing. And so I would say this, if I were to move this anywhere, I'd probably put like a piece of like fiberglass down in here. I know the Phoenixes have like a little tool storage right in here. That would make way more sense. Just get it out of the way.
Little custom rack right there. I know you got your little sticker, but like the one that sticks out, and dude, I've never had anything fly out. Like I can put little tiny scissors like that in there. It's kind of awesome. So let's take a look at the front here. I kind of like your front setup. It's a little bit different than mine. You got the Ghost setup.
Yep.
You got twin 12s. What kind of graph mount do you have up on there?
So that's a Boat Logics. That's a dual mount. Boat Logics dual mount. You can get those to fit any graphs. So if you just talk to Boat Logics, they can customize them, make the brackets. So if you wanted to have a 12-inch, you know, helix on the bottom and a 10-inch Lowrance or 9-inch Lowrance or whatever, however you wanted to rig it, they can customize those and make them. But I've got the two HCS 12s on there. I really like that setup. That mount is so solid. I mean, you can run through rough water and those things, I mean, they're going to vibrate a tiny bit, but they're not going to move. I mean, you can trust those mounts, you know, to hold your graphs in there even in the roughest stuff.
It seems like we might be focusing a lot on accessories today, but there's two things that I want to note here. Do you like those E-locks? So basically there's locks on the graph down there on each corner. That would make me a lot more comfortable like leaving my boat in a gas station or a parking lot for like an hour or something like that.
I literally just have them as a deterrent.
Okay.
I don't necessarily think they're going to prevent somebody from stealing my graphs, but they're a huge deterrent. Yeah. I mean, you're not just going to come down here and twist off my graph and pull this off. This thing's locked on there. The one thing about these is they're so they're a Phillips head. When you basically, this pops off and it's just a bolt with a Phillips head on there, and I take a big screwdriver and I reef that thing down as tight as I can get it, and that way this thing's not going to move, because I have had issues with them loosening up, and if you're not checking them often, which I don't check them that often because they're locked, but as far as like deterring thieves, I think that they're awesome. I'm the same way. I grew up with my dad, and he's like hyper paranoid about stuff getting stolen, and so this is like a must-have for me. Just in the back of my mind, I know when I run into the shell or the chevron that, hey, Joe Blow's not going to run by and undo my graphs and rip them off my boat.
So these guys right down here, these are power pull buttons, and I think they are probably one of the most essential accessories that you ever have. I don't know about you, but I have twin power poles just like Jacob, and I cannot tell you the last time I used my around the neck remote. I do not use it. So basically these buttons just sync up with your power poles, and it's up and down, double click, super efficient, super simple, absolutely awesome. So back to the boat, actually, and not really focusing on accessories. You have a really interesting kind of, I guess it'd be maybe not a criticism, but I don't know, a feature suggestion moving forward, and it's with this little glove box. Tell me a little bit about it.
This is an awesome little space. I mean, this keeps all my just daytime stuff. I've got
so much deeper than mine.
I've got a scale in here. I've got an extra pair of sunglasses in here. I've got sunscreen. I've got bug spray. I pretty much keep everything. I'll put my wallet, my keys in there. But one thing that I don't like is not everybody that gets on my boat that fishes with me knows that you have to lock this thing every time you use it. A lot of guys will just flip it straight down, and if that little red tab is showing it's not locked, that thing will just open back up. This is facing, in my opinion, the wrong direction, because when you're running down the lake and the wind catches up under this thing, if it's not locked, it'll come flying open, and if you've got anything light in there, it's likely to get ripped out of the glove box.
100%.
So I think they need to switch this to where it opens up like this. To where it opens that way. Same with this. I mean,
that is one of the handiest little stash points, though. I have one of those on my boat, dude. And for junk, it's a whatever box.
It's a catch-all.
Yeah, it's just perfect, dude.
I mean, when I'm running down the lake and I got a Cliff Bar and I just finished eating it, instead of like trying to shove that in my pocket, I just pop this thing open and then shove it in there.
But it has that same concept where and it's funny because my boat only runs about like 53 miles an hour, so I don't really experience those higher speed issues that you run into, and I can see how that would happen.
It is when you hit a wave too, like if you bounce, it'll pop it open. Dude. But that's just a little thing, but it is, I mean, it does make a difference. It would be nice if it opened a little bit. And then, I mean, this is kind of annoying too. Like,
yeah, but that's because you got those big comfy bucket seats.
I mean, if you got two guys in here and one guy's leaning,
that's
you're like,
true.
especially when you're in a tournament when you're just fishing with a guy that you don't know. Like if you got a co-angler and he's sitting over here and you're like, hey man, can you move your leg really quick? Like, and you're like trying to reach over to touch his leg.
This is actually an illustration. Jacob, like behind the scenes, is the most polite individual ever. Like he's very he's like, that would be rude, and impolite. So it's funny you bring that up. And maybe that's an illustration. Like boats are really a reflection of like the person. It's just like fishing rods. Jacob's gonna throw a 7.3 where I'd throw a 7.1. I'm gonna throw a 6.10 maybe where he'd throw like a 6.6, or whatever.
Sure,
It's such a preferential little deal, and boats are the exact same way. There's one more storage compartment that I want you to show me, and I want to tell you something real quick. I was on Tyler's boat, and he has a pad exactly like this. It's a little foam pad.
Oh, really?
Where his is shaped like a fish, but you can stick hooks in it, and as long as you don't stick too big of a hook in it and rip a chunk off, you can just hang whatever is like necessity for the day. Not very important, but it's interesting that two MLF guys have that exact same setup. Tell me about this thing right here.
So this is cool. I keep all my scents and dyes in here. I actually need to re-up on my dye. As you can see, it's like all dyed in there. I had a whole bottle of JJ's open up in there. Oh my God. It literally dyed like everything. But yeah, that's a great, awesome. Oh, it was terrible. This is a great little catch-all for all my scents, all my, sprays, pretty much everything. I don't really use it for much besides that, but I just know it's in there. Like if I'm going out and I'm fishing a worm, or if I'm fishing a jig and I'm pitching it around and I'm like, man, I think I'd get more bites with scent. I don't have to think about where it is. I literally just drop down here, open this, grab my scent, put it on there. It's just a nice little convenient storage spot for that. You could put whatever in there though. It's not very deep, but it is a nice little added feature.
It's not taking up any more space. It just pulls out
it just goes in there. You don't even really notice it's there unless you need it.
So let's jump back to the live wells right here, and let's take a look at how deep they are. And once again, we're going to talk about a little something that you do. So these are pretty wide. They're actually, I think, quite a bit bigger than mine. I enjoy them. The only thing that I don't like is you do get a little bit of sloshing around the edges, but I think that almost happens with any live well.
I think so
but
too.
I want to ask you a question about this guy right down here.
Yeah.
Why in God's name do you have noodles in your boat?
I want to try to come up with something smart, but I'm just going to tell you the real reason.
Okay.
I put them in there primarily for when I'm running rough water and those fish are in there and you're running 15, 20 miles and they're bouncing. And you've got this metal latch.
Okay.
You've got these sharp edges.
So
you've
these
got
just
this.
come up and go like
They
that,
basically float up and they sit up in here when
like
it's full of
bumpers
water.
almost.
So those fish are under there, and when they bounce, this is just a padding. And I'll, believe it or not, it's actually really nice too for when you open this live well and you've got really crazy active fish.
Yeah, to keep them
because
from
they
jumping
can't
out.
jump out.
That's interesting.
They hit this thing before they jump out.
Yeah, and you hear them getting all crazy, and you know, like you gotta chill out, don't get too feisty.
So that actually prevents them from jumping out. It also just protects the fish. It's really just for fish safety because, I mean, when I do, a penalty is ounces, and ounces are money, and you got to keep them alive, and so that's just a nice way to, you know, kind of protect the fish.
That's a really cool. I've seen it a million times, never known why.
Yep.
Well, Jacob, this was an awesome walkthrough, and I'll tell you what, guys, I do have a Triton. I do not have this size of Triton, and Jacob definitely takes his stuff to another level because he's on tour all year. He beats his stuff up because he has to. So if you guys got any questions, where can they find you on social media?
Yeah, go check me out on Instagram and on Facebook. It's Jacob Ball Fishing on Instagram and on my YouTube, and then it's just Jacob Ball on my Facebook.
Well, we will continue the search for the perfect bass boat. We got a ton of information from Jacob today. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. If you got any questions or anything, drop them in the comments below. Hit Jacob up, and we'll see you back out here on the water or from the garage talking bass fishing.